Hello, one and all, and welcome back to a new episode of the Boxcast. My name is Justin, and as with last year, I am joined by both Miko and Alex.
Hi.
Hey guys.
And we're going to be talking about the first test of the 2015 season, which was, as always, at Jerez, and lasted 4 days, as it typically does. And it was a very different, stark contrast versus last year. Big differences, a lot more mileage run. It was 6,500 kilometers completed in 4 days in 2014, with over 10,000 kilometers completed in 4 days in 2015. So obviously the teams all coming to grasp with the new technology very quickly. I mean, obviously 2014, we were expecting a lot of retirements and engine failures and all sorts of stuff like that, and really didn't see much of that at all. So but this year, a lot more mileage put in. We are going to go ahead and we're going to start the Boxcast by talking about a couple of teams that may or may not actually make it to the grid for Australia, or other races possibly. There's been some crazy discussion about Marussia only missing the first 3 races, but we're going to start off with Caterham. And obviously they're the team with it's not looking quite so good for them right now.
No, I don't think they'll. I'm surprised Marussia even rumoured to be back. To be fair, but I just can't see it happening for Caterham. I mean, they were the slowest car last year. They've not got any FOM money coming in now because they were 11th again. So now there's 0 coming in from them, and it's just not great for them. I can't see it happening.
Yep. Yeah, probably not very likely. I mean, they're auctioning off all of the pieces and stuff like that of the car and whatnot. Speaking of which, I wouldn't mind possibly getting a little piece of a Caterham if I had disposable income. That would be pretty nice. But
I'd want like a whole front wing or a chassis, like something big. Entire front wing. That'd be wicked.
But yeah, I mean, it's not super likely of them coming back at all. It's really not looking good for them at all. It's unfortunate. Obviously, I'm a Kamui Kobayashi fan. I was very happy to see him return to F1 in 2014 with Caterham, even if it was at the back of the grid. Kamui was always one of those people, though. He always said he would rather drive a slow F1 car rather than a fast GT3 car or something like that. So, and I can totally sympathize with that. I understand his feelings there, because even the slowest of F1 cars is going to blow the doors off of WEC cars and stuff like that.
He said that, but then he then got deeply frustrated at Caterham. Like you could see it, and there was talk of him not being happy back at the factory, and I think he said that, and then actually experienced it. It was actually maybe I meant like Sauber, someone bigger than Sauber. I think he didn't mean necessarily the smallest team. So yeah, I don't know. I don't think he's that keen.
Yeah. It's unfortunate. I liked Caterham. I like all the teams really. It's sad seeing any of the teams go. But really, Marussia, that's the really unfortunate one, if you ask me. As you mentioned, it's more likely for them to come back. Obviously, they're trying to come back under the new name of Manor GP, I think they're called. But I mean, they actually scored points last year. It looked like that they were on the rise. It looked like that they were going to be finally lifting themselves up out of the backfield and into the midfield. So it's especially unfortunate to see them go, really.
I don't know. I can't even. They did have that good last year, but it's not like they were consistently, challenging for points. They were closer than before. But it was more down to Sauber's horrific year than Marussia's strong year, I think. And I mean, it's been, when did they join? 2010 was it?
Something like that. I don't know the exact year.
I think it's 2010. So that's what 2010, 11, 12, 13, 14. So it's 5 years they've had an F1, and they've got closer, but that final hurdle is just where they need their money. They just haven't got enough resources to get the parts, to even build the parts. It seemed at the end of last season, they couldn't even afford to they had upgrades in the pipeline, and they couldn't even afford to build them. So it's just, I don't think they ever would have got there really. It's just, I'm not really. I want to see more teams, but it really doesn't bother me seeing just backmarkers. I just see them as relatively pointless, purely because they've had 5 years and now they didn't do it. That was it. They needed something big to change, like a huge investment. Then but what is the point in them sitting there and then consistently being that far back? I just don't see a point in it.
Yeah, there really needs to be a good business model behind a team. It just can't be like a Caterham style where there's one millionaire and then it's just a side project for him that's just pretty much not gonna last.
Yeah, not these. I mean, obviously Eddie Jordan would say different, but that was also a totally different time.
Yeah.
Yep.
So yeah, I mean, I think the kind of lower midfield teams are in like the high tens of millions, aren't they? Like 80, 70, 80, 90 million, I think, or so. And the Marussia and Caterham were more like sort of 50, 60 million, which was more than they had, hence them being in into debt. So it's find another 20 or 30 million, find another 50% of your budget. That's nigh impossible, isn't it, really? Without, like I say, without a billionaire investing or something like that.
Yep.
Yeah, I think if you saw I think there was like a list of things that Marussia had debt to. There was like, I think it was in like there's probably tens of millions of debt to various suppliers like Pirelli and Ferrari for the engines, and
Yeah, wasn't total
like,
debt about 30 million, I think, 20, 30 million? I saw the same thing.
yeah, and like even the prize money that's not gonna save them.
Yeah, no, exactly. Yes, I mean, it sweetens the deal, but like this whole thing as well about people saying, oh, they should have been let in, why are people not letting them in? Well, like, to me, it's not a legal 2015 car. Why should they be given leeway? I'm sure Sauber would have loved to use their 2014, well, they wouldn't because they were slow, but say Force India would have loved to use their 2014 car and just sort of tweak it, but they didn't get given that, so why should another competitor? Regardless of your budget, everyone has to run to the same rules. You shouldn't just let, be charitable to one team just because they happen to not have any money. Well, that's just plain unfair. So, that means they are, I mean, let's talk about, like you said, let's talk about them just missing the first 3 races, but I mean, I can't see them getting a 2015 car, having only started like last week, and I can't, unless they pretty much already had a 2015 car built, I just can't see that happening, really. So I doubt it. But to me, it's just better to, regardless of the prize money, if someone's going to invest, you need to invest. Don't say, well, I'll invest, but I want you to put in your prize money as well. Like, no, you're investing, you're paying for this team to be successful. Just pay. You have to forgo that. It's just too late. So sorry. And then just build a 2016 car right now. Just put the 2015 car in the bin and just build a 2016 car. Job done. Then come back next year and genuinely possibly be a midfield team.
That's not a bad idea, actually. If they really want to continue as a team, maybe taking 2015 off might be the best course of action.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, just for the sake of, was it 20 or 30 million the prize money? Yeah, that is obviously a lot, but in the long run, if you're genuinely trying to invest in this team and genuinely trying to make it successful, that's not really a lot, is it? I mean, that's only half their budget for a year, more or less. So it's just it even though it's big, it is relatively still a kind of a splash in the sea, or whatever the saying is.
Right. Now, one thing that I was kind of wondering about, I mean, didn't Haas buy the Marussia factory?
Yeah, there was talk of that, but I assume not now because they've gone back into it.
No, I don't think they did.
They didn't. Okay, so that didn't end up happening.
No, I think Haas said he was going to, but they probably had that would have been the last thing to get auctioned off. So perhaps he was going to, or perhaps he made them an offer, away from the auction, and said, look, I'll give you whatever 10 million or whatever to for your factory, and they said yes, and then changed their mind when obviously they got invested in.
Yeah, obviously.
But also, I still don't think this investment is guaranteed to come through at all. Like I don't think it's guaranteed that they will still stay. I think these investors are they're obviously very serious, hence them taking all the staff back on and stuff, but I'm still not entirely. I mean, look at Caterham. They had a buyer middle of last year. It was all announced. Tony Fernandez said, yeah, we got a buyer. Was it a Middle East consortium, they called it, something like that?
Mm-hmm.
And then they went bankrupt. So,
and I mean, it's the same thing happened to Lotus, right? In 2013, they had buyers lined up and everything, and then it just fell apart.
Yeah, and wasn't it Sauber with the Russian back in? Was that Sauber?
Yeah,
Similar
with
sort of thing.
Sorokin and everything, all that business.
Yeah, which never really sort of came. So even like I say, I still don't really expect them to be on the grid. If I'm honest, I'm still doubtful in my mind that they're still not there until I actually see their car going round and and the business model looks stable. I just can't. Still not convinced.
Just sort of on that topic, how do you guys feel about an 18-car grid? I mean, do you think the action is going to suffer? I mean, do you think it's going to be a little bit less interesting?
So, do you want to take this one, Nico?
Yeah. I think it's kind of, if you're looking back to, I think 12 when we had
24.
even HRT. Then yeah, a little bit. Maybe 6 cars is missing a little bit too much, and then maybe over 20 would be probably good. But yeah, what do you think, Alex?
I actually disagree. I think, like, I mean, we did, for 2 races last year, we did have 18 cars already. We've already seen it. And how often last year did we see a Marussia or a Caterham on the screen, apart from when it was being lapped, just getting in the way of the race that we actually wanted to see?
It's a small percent. It's a
very
small percent. Yeah.
And even when they were going off or they were being lapped, just getting in the way of the race. So that was pretty much the only time we saw them. So it was completely pointless, really. Which is why I'm not really bothered about seeing them come back or not, because it doesn't make a difference to the entertainment unless you support them or you support one of their drivers. Then yeah, but it just doesn't make. Yeah, I do want more cars. I want 24 cars, but it's pointless having 18 relatively competitive cars and then 3 or 6 slow cars that are just not going to be filmed at all. It's a bit pointless in my eyes. Obviously, everyone's going to have a transitional period. Everyone's got Haas isn't going to come in and be midfield. I doubt he is going to be a backmarker initially. But obviously, there's an acceptable time to be a backmarker and make your way up. And as I said before, I think Marussia and Caterham had their 5 years. And I think they would have known they were in trouble at the end of 2013 financially. They're thinking, this isn't great. We're starting to get into debt. We're spending more than we got. But they raced in 2014 with the hope that they would be jumping up the grid. That's why they raced 2014, which they didn't quite finish it, did they? But to hoping that their car would be good enough that they could actually could compete and get some sponsors because they're doing better, but that obviously never came to light. So that was even their kind of final push, and which never really came to light. So yeah.
Didn't Marussia start getting sponsorship though? Didn't they start picking up some sponsors after their points in Monaco and stuff like that? I thought I started seeing new sponsors showing up on their car.
But like to me though, like I mentioned before about the how often we see the cars, would you want to pay, say, 10 million for a title sponsorship at Marussia, be all over the cars but barely get seen on TV, or 10 million to Mercedes, have a little logo on their car but get on the screen all of the time? To me, that's a complete no-brainer. Plus, then you're affiliated with the best team rather than the worst team. So, to me, if I was a sponsor, unless you've got, like if the Russian thing, or unless you've got personal thing, like say if you're Indian, you might want to go Force India, that. But other than that, like to a brand, to a corporation, to me, there's no real appeal of going to a backmarket team.
Yeah, unless there's just like no availability at the top teams, unless that's their only option.
They can always squeeze in another one. They can always squeeze in another logo, and they love the monies.
They always tend to find advertising space. It is unfortunate, honestly. I kind of agree with both of you, to be honest. It's sort of like they were sort of like their separate formula. It was like we had the 9 teams that were battling for points, and then we had these 2 other teams that were just battling each other for no reason, almost. With that being said, they were also a good training ground for new drivers, obviously. That's one of the benefits of backmarker teams, is that they're willing to bring on new drivers. Unfortunately, a lot of those times those drivers are paid drivers, of course. But they are a testing ground for new talent, which I think that's going to be the biggest hit that F1 as a sport is going to take from the loss of these 2 teams. But yeah, I'm not sure how much we're really gonna miss them once the race is actually going on. I think actually they tended to be more entertaining in qualifying than in the races. Because every once in a while you get a Caterham or a Marussia that just sneaks into Q2 and stuff like that.
Agree.
Yeah, and that was always pretty interesting. But then, as soon as the race started, they just fell right back down the grid.
Yeah, it's pointless.
Yeah, exactly. So they were almost a little bit more exciting in qualifying than they were actually in race trim. Because also they could take gambles and stuff like that. They could do things that other teams weren't doing and stuff like that, which is kind of nice. But hopefully. My main concern is that we're not going to see. I mean, we have Haas coming in, obviously, but that's just one new team. That's a 20-car grid, which is better than 18 in my opinion. But
just touch on Haas. Like, I don't know about you, but I'm a lot more excited for Haas than I am for Marussia or Caterham combined, even because that, like I said, they've had 5 years. To me now, they're dead in the water unless they get some serious changes. But Haas is, he's doing things a bit different. He's doing it in America, which has never worked in the past, but he's given it a crack. He's obviously, in America's a big market, and he's obviously got a bit of money, and there's kind of potential there, and I'm quite excited.
The wind tunnel too. So supposedly the best wind tunnel in the world.
Oh, really? Okay, I didn't know
Yeah,
that.
yeah. Supposedly, Haas has the most advanced and most technical wind tunnel in the entire world, and I mean, we've seen the sort of effect that the wind tunnel can have on teams like Ferrari. You know, they struggled for several years as a result of wind tunnel trouble. So, you know, they do have. It's interesting, like you said. You know, it's going to be interesting to see how that works out because they do have certain things working for them and certain things not working for them, which could make it pretty interesting.
Yeah, just touching on what you said about the young drivers as well. It's definitely disappointing to see that. But even if they had two Pastor Maldonados, who's obviously the best sponsored driver, it still wouldn't be enough to run the team. You'd still need more.
It's true.
So like it's difficult, and obviously the Red Bull example with Toro Rosso is extreme because I think Toro Rosso's budget's high tens of millions as well. So you know, it's to invest another nearly 100 million a year just to have a couple of long drivers is an extreme investment. It's an awesome one, it must be said, to see new drivers coming in. It's really good of Red Bull to do that, and if they didn't do that, then we would be really struggling for young drivers, I think.
Yep.
But I guess a team like Red Bull or McLaren or whatever, they could put together. So McLaren and Mercedes say could put in 30, 40 million each and have one seat each in a team. That would kind of work. So they would always have one seat to be used as a young driver. You know, any more than two teams, it wouldn't work obviously because there's only two cars. But that would probably be a better thing for young drivers than having Marussia or Caterham because the budget would be higher. Yeah, you know, to a team like Mercedes, you know, they might want to get Pascal Wehrlein in and people like that. You know, it might be worth spending the 40 million here to a team, you know, to a company like Mercedes that makes billions every year and money is just essentially nothing to them. You know, it might be worth it. So yeah, it's an interesting point, but I think it can be got around other ways if the teams really want to.